Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway. This Labor Day, fire up the grill and enjoy quality meats and fresh local produce from Safeway. Safeway proudly supports Colorado farms and small businesses. Shop in-store or in the Safeway app.
If you've ever gasped and waddled your way up a trail in Colorado, Oprah gets it. Did you know that she was around this weekend? Well, Oprah said that back in the 90s, she tried the Bear Creek hike in Telluride, and she was so out of breath that all she could focus on was putting one foot in front of the other. In fact, she didn't even make it to the end. But this weekend, she posted that she came back, she took in the views, and she finished the whole thing in under 2 hours. So if you're listening, Oprah, congratulations, and let us know if you want a hiking buddy next time. I'm Arlo Perez Esquivel.
And I'm Bazi Kanani. Coming up, what tariffs are costing Colorado?
Tariffs alone are going to be a significant hit to the economy.
You'll hear just how much and what it means on top of poor jobs numbers.
Then, the prospect of a new mega travel plaza on the I-25 corridor is dividing a small town and prompting an election this week.
It seems like a good opportunity for the city to get some tax revenue.
It's an ugly example of needless consumerism.
Plus, Denver is trying something new to get you to read a book for fun.
How do I get adults who are not, daily readers?
It's Monday, September 8th. Here's the news in Colorado today.
Colorado is doing the math on how President Trump's tariffs will impact the state's bottom line.
Whether there's a recession or not doesn't solely depend on tariffs. What it does, though, is it significantly decreases the economic growth rate.
Governor Jared Polis just presented projections from the state budget office, and he says the outlook is concerning.
Tariffs alone are going to be a significant hit to the economy, costing us 1% to 2% growth, which is a fairly stagnant economy.
The state projects Trump's tariffs will cut almost $250 million from state coffers this year and nearly $500 million next year. CPR business and economy reporter Sarah Mulholland is here. Sarah, what did Polis say is being affected by tariffs right now?
Well, Bazi, it's hard to think of something that isn't being affected by tariffs right now. Take agriculture, which is the state's largest industry. So Polis said exports of beef are down $40 million this year, and that's already cost a couple hundred jobs. He also pointed to tariffs on Switzerland, which are at 39%. One of the highest tariff rates. And he said that would hurt Colorado's aerospace industry. State economists also noted that import taxes on things like furniture and clothing are starting to filter through to prices for consumers like me and you. And Polis also worries about the cost of construction going up at a time when he's trying to increase the number of homes available.
How does all of this affect the state budget then?
Well, for all these hits on businesses and consumers, tax collections fall. For example, state economists say sales and use tax collections could drop by more than 2.5% because of tariffs. And at the same time, the tariffs mean the government is having to spend more, like for capital projects. Those big construction projects funded by state and local governments, they're going to be more expensive because of tariffs on steel and aluminum and copper, for example.
On Friday, we learned new national jobs figures. In addition to tariffs, how does that fit into the outlook for the economy?
Okay, so the jobs numbers were not good, and this is becoming a trend over the past few months. Job growth is down 75% from a year ago, and we just found out that in June, the country actually lost jobs for the first time since December 2020 at the height of the pandemic. And what all of that means for Colorado and our revenue picture is that income taxes could fall, and that is Colorado's largest single revenue source.
A spokesperson for the White House put out a statement in response to the state's forecast on tariffs. She says the tariffs are part of a strategy that is, quote, leveling the playing field for American industries and workers. She added that, quote, Coloradans can be rest assured that the best is yet to come. Sarah, are there any positives coming from the tariffs in the short term?
Well, the tariffs are bringing revenue into the U.S. Treasury, but even that requires some context because it's Americans that are paying those tariffs. It's U.S. businesses that pay them when they import stuff from overseas. The Trump administration is fighting right now to keep the tariffs because judges have ruled that he doesn't have the broad authority for them that he's claiming. They will be in place at least another month, though, while the government makes its legal case. And Polis said he's putting out these figures to try to sway members of Congress and the public to speak out against the tariffs and hopefully to stop future increases.
CPR's Sarah Mulholland. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have you been to a Buc-ee's before? It's a travel plaza, and it's massive. It's fans like its clean bathrooms, the jerky, and its kitsch. The company's trying to open a second location in Colorado, but that effort is tearing one small town apart. Now, the drama could all unfold at a special election that ends tomorrow. KRCC's Brianna Heaney is here to break it all down. Bree, where is this happening, and what has the debate over Buc-ee's been like?
Well, we're talking about Palmer Lake. It's located between Colorado Springs and Denver. It's a small, picturesque town, and a lot of the residents are pretty hellbent on keeping it that way. But in comes Buc-ee's with a plan to build a couple of miles east of the town, near County Line Road and I-25. Buc-ee's wants the town of Palmer Lake to give it access to town resources, most importantly, access to the town's water. You mentioned that Buc-ee's is known for its clean bathrooms. Well, all that flushing and hand washing amounts to a lot of water. It's estimated that Buc-ee's will use an extra 20 to 30% of the town's already strained water supply.
Wow.
Yeah, and that has really riled up some residents, both in Palmer Lake and surrounding areas.
Yeah, that was on display last week at a planning commission meeting that you attended, right?
Oh, yeah. Things got pretty nasty at this meeting.
Why don't you just sit there and shut your mouths and listen to what's being said?
The town hall had a heavy police presence. At least a dozen officers in and around the building. Yes, this has become the new normal for these meetings when Buc-ee's is on the agenda.
Okay, and we need to explain what exactly the company is asking for. It wants the town of Palmer Lake to annex or add land that is currently part of unincorporated El Paso County. That's how the company would get access to Palmer Lake's resources. What are the arguments in favor of this annexation for Buc-ee's?
I did talk to some residents, and 4 out of the 5 people who I spoke to were actually in favor of the Buc-ee's annexation. Here's resident Will Tirado, who I met at the post office in town. He's on the fence, but leaning toward wanting a Buc-ee's in the area.
It seems like a good opportunity for the city to get some tax revenue off of gas stations. Like if people are going out to Denver and need gas, you go to Monument and all the residents' gas monies, tax money for gas and everything is going to Monument. So it creates an opportunity for residents to help support a little bit more locally.
As for Buc-ee's itself, the company has agreed to pay for new water infrastructure, not just to meet its own needs, but also to increase the town's supply. At the same time, they're eligible for tax credits that over 20 years would allow them to recoup that money. On the other side of the debate, I spoke with another resident, Catherine McGuire. She told me she thought Buc-ee's would destroy the character of the area.
It's stupid. How they could even think of even putting it there in the first place boggles my mind. In my opinion, they should have said, no way, right off the bat. It's an ugly example of needless consumerism.
Also, it would increase traffic in the area and could affect emergency response times.
And the reaction inside the Planning Commission meeting last week shows that she's not alone, because the Planning Commission recommended against the annexation.
But, not to rain on their parade, this is just a recommendation. Palmer Lake's Board of Trustees can take the recommendations or leave them. And even the board might not get the final say. Which brings us back to this special election that ends tomorrow.
So then, what questions are before Palmer Lake voters?
The big one would give residents the power to decide on annexations. If it passes, it would mandate that any annexation proposal would have to be put to a public vote. And here's the kicker. It would take effect as soon as the special election is certified and be retroactive by a year. So it would mean voters ultimately get to say whether or not Buc-ee's moves in.
And there's another question on the ballot, right? What is the deal with that one?
The effort is to recall 2 trustees who voted to make the land eligible for annexation. I think this really shows how heated things have become over this issue. Politics, religion, and Buc-ee's are probably on the list of things to not talk about at a dinner party in Palmer Lake.
Brianna Heaney, thank you for your reporting.
Thank you.
If you've dropped by a public library in Denver recently and been offered an orange and yellow paperback book for free, it wasn't a fluke. The library is trying to get people reading the same book in hopes of building community.
One of the main things I'm thinking about is how do I get adults who are not library power users, who are not already part of, daily readers, how do I engage them and inspire them to pick up a book for the first time?
Jessie De La Cruz coordinates this One Book, One Denver program for the library. The book they chose for this fall is a memoir called Stay True. It's by Wasu. It won the Pulitzer Prize and was a bestseller.
When I read this book and I came across it, I felt that it had a lot of universal themes. I think we can all relate to that version of ourselves that was entering into college, that was awkward and clumsy and trying to figure out who we are, those new friendships that you develop in college, on top of trying to understand and grapple with your identity and your independence.
Then, the college friendship in the book takes a violent plot twist, and the book deals with loss and memory. De La Cruz and her colleagues gave out 1,500 copies of Stay True to people in Denver, 100 of those in Spanish. Another 1,000 people have already checked out the e-book for free. This relaunch of One Book, One Denver comes after several years of hiatus and a reinvention. In the past, the program focused on young people. This is the first year trying to target adults.
I saw an opportunity to reimagine it, to center it around adult readers, inviting creative collaboration, and using literature as a springboard for connection, well-being, and civic imagination.
De La Cruz is already planning for a second year of the program in 2026, which she says will feature another national caliber author, next time with a work of fiction. Thanks to CPR's Elaine Tassi for this reporting. You can find more in the show notes, including ways to get involved with the book in person, like a chance to make an old school mixtape, just like the friends in the book do.
Reporting for today's show also came from KRCC's Andrew Chalfin. To keep up on what's happening in your state, be sure to follow Colorado Today in your podcast app. I'm Arlo Perez Esquivel.
And I'm Bazi Kanani. This is CPR News.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway. This Labor Day, fire up the grill and enjoy quality meats and fresh local produce from Safeway. Safeway proudly supports Colorado farms and small businesses. Shop in-store or in the Safeway app.